It's only been a few days since Tears of the Kingdom released, but I can proudly say that this game is a masterpiece. I'm overwhelmed at how good the gameplay, story, and everything else is in this game. But today, we are going to be talking about the story of Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, specifically the Dragon Tears memories. I am going ahead and jumping right to the point. This video contains basically all the spoilers for the story. Listen here and listen very well. If you do not want to be spoiled for Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, click off of this video. As of right now, I haven't completed the entire game either. I have only collected all the memories. So any unwanted spoilers in the comments, I will delete immediately. And now that that is said and done, please enjoy this video. Just like Breath of the Wild had its memories, Tears of the Kingdom has something similar. They are known as the Dragon Tears. Your first Dragon Tear encounter is usually when you first meet Impa. She addresses the large mural that is on top of the grassy terrain and says that she wants a better look at it. She refers to these murals as geoglyphs, and with further inspection you can see the small puddle that reveals a memory. But these aren't the regular memories you would think. So today, we are going to look at all 12 memories and analyze the story that comes with them. And if you weren't listening before, this is your final warning. Spoilers are included. Now, without further ado, let's get on with this story. The first official memory takes place shortly after Breath of the Wild. We can assume that it has been at least 2 years since the Great Calamity. After the Great Calamity took place, I assume that the Master Sword was damaged in a small way, causing it to reside in its original spot, the Korok Forest. And now, because Link is the keeper of it, the blade will return to him. And because Link's strength is now fully restored, he has no struggle pulling the sword out of its stone. With the strong sword back in Link's arms, both Link and Zelda now feel completely safe from any threat, meaning they both now feel comfortable exploring the mystery that is what lurks beneath Hyrule Castle. The Great Deku Tree then goes on to explain how the sword will continue to gain strength if it is bathed in sacred power, meaning that the Master Sword will only grow stronger and stronger and stronger the more the time passes. This idea that the Master Sword will only grow stronger piques interest in Zelda's mind. This is the first, but definitely not the last time we see the Master Sword mentioned in these memories, along with Zelda's interest in protecting it. I skipped a little piece of the second memory because that is actually what opens the game. We see the duo approach the corpse that is surrounded by malice, an ancient hand grasping its chest as if sealing it away. With tons of curiosity, Zelda and Link approach this figure, and to their surprise, the hand that is sealing the darkness away collapses, dropping a tear-shaped stone with it. When Zelda picks the stone up, it seems to react to her touch. However, she is snapped back to reality quite quickly when she notices the ghoulish corpse twitch, because the disembodied hand unfortunately fell from its original place that seemed to have caused the corpse to burst back into life. Then a huge swarm of malice unleashes from the body, to which Link successfully parries, but it is much too late already. The malice encases the sword and his arm, mangling it terribly. With his final rush of strength, he slashes the malice, but to no avail, the Master Sword shatters. The corpse-like man begins to speak, talking about how fragile the sword and Link both are. He recognizes the two figures and also knows them by name, which heavily shocks them both. He then mentions how a man named Rauru placed his faith in them, and as of now, neither of them know that name. With unspeakable ability, the man uses his power to push Hyrule Castle skywards, which of course causes the castle to go upwards, but everything below it to collapse. This destruction causes Zelda to fall, and Link, with great regret, fails to save her. Before she can fall to the depths, she is encased in a ball of light, and directly after that is where the next memory takes place. We see the ball of light again, and Zelda emerges from it. She's completely unconscious, but still holds the tear-shaped stone in her hand. At first, she doesn't even notice the two figures walking towards her. They wake Zelda up, but when she does awaken, she is shocked. She doesn't know where she is or who these two people are. But then they introduce themselves as Sonia and Rauru, not only husband and wife, but also king and queen, which of course causes Zelda to realize that this is not her era. She was transported thousands and thousands of years back. The two people she is speaking to being the first king and queen of Hyrule ever. Also, can we take just 1 second to appreciate Raru's design? I've waited years and years to know what the Zonai looked like, and this design for the Zonai did not disappoint. Anyway, basically, they're both confused and they want to help her out, and then that moves on to the next memory. It's Zelda taking a good look at Hyrule. This site is really what sets in stone that she is way back in history. This, of course, concerns Zelda, but at the same time interests her deeply. Rauru then goes on to talk about the tear-shaped like stone that Zelda came to this time with. The stone, which is called a secret stone, apparently controls time. Sonia then goes on to say that she not only feels the presence of her time abilities within Zelda, but also Rauru's light abilities, along with the fact that they are somehow related by blood. Rauru, changing the subject, asked why Zelda wanted to return to her time so desperately. She goes on to explain that there is great danger occurring there in her time, to which Sonia offers to help her, kindly offering for Zelda to live with them until they can figure out what her problem is. Rauru then mentions his oldest sister Mineru, and says that she may have some answers to the questions that they are facing. Which takes us to the next memory. We are introduced to Mineru, who is another Zonai. Rauru asks if it is possible for Zelda to return to her time, to which Mineru says that it is possible but highly unlikely, because possessing such stones require mastery of it. She explains that she can see light and time powers within Zelda, but the secret stone only amplifies her time abilities. But with sadness, she says if she already doesn't have mastery of her stone, then she can't return to her original time. That brings Mineru to the topic of draconification, an act that those with secret stones are forbidden to do. She recites, "To swallow a secret stone is to become an immortal dragon, one blessed with eternal life," which means that if Zelda does this, then she can return home. But alas, it is forbidden for a good reason. To become an immortal dragon is to lose oneself, meaning you would sacrifice your mind, body, and heart, losing everything that makes you, you, which causes Zelda, Sonia, and Rauru to go back to square one. But Rauru proposes a good idea. If Sonia helps Zelda master her time powers, that could be a way to help Zelda return back home. To which Zelda happily agrees, and that goes on to the next memory. This is officially the first time we see the Demon King Ganondorf. But of course he is not yet the Demon King, instead he is the king of the Gerudo. Ganondorf and his fellow soldiers decide to release an attack on Rauru and his allies. This attack consists of not only one Molduga, but a whole swarm of them. But instead of acting with fear, the great king Rauru walks to the scene with courage. And just like how this is our first time seeing Ganondorf, this is our first time seeing Rauru display his true power. His secret stone glows as he makes a triangular shape with his arms and hands, and Sonia, knowing exactly what is happening, decides to put her arm up as well, and then ushers Zelda to do the same. This part confused me just a little bit because I didn't know why he needed the two to power him up, but I don't know, maybe he likes the emotional support. This power surges through Rauru and then bursts out in a beam. Also, one of my favorite details is that his third eye opens up whenever he's using his power. I don't know, I just thought that was cool. He unleashes a large beam of light, causing all of the Molduga to basically drop dead. This causes Ganondorf to completely rethink his plan. Now he very well knows that brute force is not the way to go about this. But then he notices the secret stone on Rauru's hand. He knows now that if he somehow acquires one of these secret stones, he could become the most powerful being in Hyrule. And with the next memory, we can see exactly what his second plan was. Ganondorf basically does the same exact thing that he did in Ocarina of Time, acting friendly towards the royal family, but we all know he's gonna stab him in the back at some point. Ganondorf's attempts at being loyal and friendly, however, well, they're not the best. At one point, he just like straight up insults Rauru. Like, he just says something along the lines of like, you and your sister are the last remaining Zonai, and you married a Hylian woman, so if something were to happen to you and your sister, the Zonai would be completely wiped out. And Rauru, rightfully so, says that if he were to die or if something were to happen to him and his sister, Hyrule would still live on in prosperity. And then they have like a little staring contest or something. Once Ganondorf leaves, Zelda brings her worry to light. She explains how she believes that Ganondorf has an ulterior move, to which Rauru replies with, he knows. But with this unfriendly alliance, it'll be easier to keep an eye on him. And he assures Zelda that there's absolutely nothing to worry about. Which is, it's not the most truthful statement, but luckily the next memory is a more happy one. This memory is fairly simple. We don't have to linger on it for too long. This is the first time we see an example of Sonia's time powers, as she reverses time for a cup that Zelda had dropped. Zelda then asks why she can control it so easily, and Sonia then explains what exactly goes through her head when she is reversing time. And then she changes the subject. She notes that that is not the only thing that is worrying Zelda at the moment. She knows the conflict that she is facing. Zelda desperately wants to return to her original time, but also wants to stay and help Rauru and Sonia with their problems as well. Both Rauru and Sonia explain that it is perfectly fine and she doesn't need to worry, and that she can put all of her focus into returning home. And the mention of home reminds Zelda of Link. Sonia already knows who Link is because Zelda had already told her, but Rauru did not recognize the name. In response, Zelda goes on a sort of rant about who Link is, telling Rauru basically everything she knows about him. And can I just say, I absolutely love this character development. Originally, in Breath of the Wild, Zelda couldn't even utter Link's name without feeling a sense of disappointment. And now when Zelda speaks of him, all she feels is pride. Rauru mentions how he would love to meet Link one day, and that's when the memory ends. I'm not ready for this one, okay. It begins with Sonia and Zelda walking out into a balcony by themselves. But it turns out it wasn't the real Zelda all along. Luckily, both the real Zelda and Sonia knew that this was just a puppet of Ganondorf's. Zelda returns the weapon back in time, but they both grow confused once they notice the puppet begins to laugh. And unfortunately, when it is much too late, they realize that the puppet was just a distraction. Ganondorf appears from behind Queen Sonia and stabs her in the back. Literally. We see the life leave her eyes as she falls to the ground, Ganondorf stealing her secret stone. At first I was like, there's no way she's dead, but later in a memory we see her grave, so yeah, she's like dead. Also, that face, what the heck is that? The next memory takes place mere seconds after the last one. Ganondorf, finally having the secret stone in his hands, begins to absorb its power. And now you know why this memory is called the birth of the Demon King. And I'm gonna call it right here, we can get the that's demise theory out of question. Because although it resembles him, that is not the Demon King. And with just the slight raise of his hand, he unleashes monsters all across Hyrule, beginning what would be known as the Imprisonment War. Rauru's a little late to the party, but he arrives anyway, and all sense of duty leaves his mind when he sees Sonia lifeless on the ground. Ganondorf begins to mock him, telling him that his own arrogance is what killed her. Rauru then lets his fury take over him, ready to fight Ganondorf one-on-one right there, but Zelda reminds him that is not what Sonia would have wanted. The trio, or the duo now, I guess, finally escape and leave Ganondorf and all of his new power alone. Following that, we get our first glimpse at Rauru's sages, mighty warriors from each race in Hyrule, which resembles the 4 champions in Breath of the Wild, but it also resembles something else. Take a look at this still. Count how many people are in it. You counted 7. You are correct. Those are the 7 sages. Or at least the 7 sages in this timeline. Which also leads me to believe that Sonia would have been the 8th, similar to how there was a mysterious 8th heroine statue in the Gerudo Desert. But that theory is for another video. Although they are willing to sacrifice anything, they are still losing hope, and Rauru decides that it is finally time to end this. The sages promise to stand by him even in the midst of terrible danger, and that is when Rauru decides it is finally time to present them with their own secret stones. With these, the sages will become even more formidable than they already were. Each sage receives their own secret stone. The Gerudo standing as an earring, the Rito as an anklet, the Goron as a large belt, and the Zora as a bracelet. They all continue to swear an oath that they will forever serve their king, even if it costs them their lives. And then we go on to the final preparations of battle. In the next memory, we can see soldiers preparing for battle, but it quickly pans over to a much sadder scene. Rauru mourning the death of his queen and his wife. I told you she was dead! Zelda then arrives to not only comfort him, but to tell him the truth of what happened right before she was transported here. She tells them that in her time, Ganondorf is still alive and powerful, meaning that after this battle, no matter what sacrifices they make, he will still rise to power again. Meaning that no matter the outcome of the battle tomorrow, Rauru will still sacrifice himself for supposedly nothing. But the king does not fear this outcome. If anything, he accepts it, claiming that no matter what, he must try. And then he goes on to say this.
And if it proves impossible for us to defeat Ganondorf, we rely on your knight and that legendary sword he carries. Our last line of defense will be Link. But remember, that was a future where you never appeared in this world. And you are here now. Zelda, I believe there is a reason you were sent to us. It has to mean something.
And I guess kings are always right, because it does in fact mean something. And Zelda then begins to realize why she was truly sent here. I don't have to mention much about this next memory. It truly is just a really big action sequence. All of the sages, including Rauru, are beyond repair. But Rauru has one final trick up his sleeve. This would take all of his energy, sacrificing his life in order to do this one final act. With a little misdirection, the Zonai finally does something that the Legend of Zelda series is famous for, sealing the darkness away. This scene is so crazy. I don't have words for how cool it actually is. But anyway, Rauru uses his last bit of strength to finally bind Ganondorf away. But Ganondorf still mocks him even after this act, saying that binding him here, even if for thousands and thousands of years, will only postpone the inevitable return. But Rauru corrects him, saying that when he does return, the one who wields the sword that seals the darkness will defeat him. Ganondorf brushes it off as interesting, saying he looks forward to meeting the boy. And with that, the two of them freeze in time, their bodies eventually decaying after thousands and thousands of years. I want to get to the end of this video and end it with a bang, so I'm going to go through this memory very quickly. It's basically just this. Zelda worrying because now she knows that Ganondorf is much too powerful. Zelda receives the Master Sword, and because she's now received the Master Sword, she knows exactly what she was sent here to do. This is technically the next memory. Remember the little detail that if the Master Sword is bathed in sacred power that it grows stronger and stronger over time? Well, what if the Master Sword is left in sacred power for thousands and thousands of years? But surely Zelda can't live that long. Unless... That's right. Unless she becomes immortal. And the only way to become immortal is to become a sacred dragon. Zelda is very aware of the consequences, but she would much rather sacrifice her mind, body, and soul than sacrifice all of Hyrule. Zelda knows that after this, she will no longer be Zelda. But if Link receives the Master Sword and finally defeats Ganondorf, then that is all that matters. She then does the Forbidden Act and swallows the Sacred Stone. And then probably goes through one of the most painful cutscenes I've ever seen in my entire life. Just sit back and take a watch because it's pretty intense. And now you know why they're called the Dragon Tears. Thank you all so much for watching. This story is so incredible and I loved recapping it. Do tell me though, do you have a favorite memory? Is there a piece of lore that I forgot and you want to tell me? Go ahead in the comments and tell me down below. Like always, I hope you are doing well. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one.